Welcome. These will be my thoughts on Arrow Season 2 Episode 11, Blind Spot. The episode is rated TV-14, so this video there will be spoilers for the episode and all the ones leading up to it. Another episode I absolutely love. Holy crap. Okay, so, lot to get to. I think I'm gonna... Let's see if we can go more or less chronological here. So, yes, I believe the first scene is Arrow, interrogating that guy who says, he just sells stolen goods. And while I appreciate that it is true that you need a baseline for a polygraph to work, I don't think the fact that it was specifically what color his shoes are was completely random. I think Felicity is still like messing with Oliver a little bit after yeah, understandable. And let's see. Yeah, I thought that was a good way to establish, yeah, he's still doing this. Yeah, we don't know exactly how many, but I could imagine for, weeks now, he has been, just, yeah, going to these various criminals that he thinks might, but they don't necessarily know who is under the mask. Nobody understands the point about the mask. And let's see, I guess the next thing was the oh wait, no, yeah, thinking about it, I think maybe the first thing was actually Sebastian talking to his mom. That was really, really effectively done. Oh, right, and I don't think I've mentioned it before, but yeah, really love that now that he has the domino mask, they actually have that in the match cut at the ending of the the intro, not the previously on. Yeah, Sebastian talking to her, and this thing about, like, do you still believe in the old gods? And this thing about protection. And he says, I forgive you for everything. That sounds like there's something more that we don't know yet. So, yeah, looking forward to finding out more there. And yeah, I appreciate the way that, like, she does genuinely, you know, she feels guilty about, telling Laurel, and it's this thing of yeah, it's complicated, parents and their offspring relationships get very complicated. And also just the way that the couple of things that Sebastian has that give him increased power. The thing about, she asks, please don't leave us, and then when Sebastian says, you can go, the employee there just goes. Like, she doesn't even say, I mean, she just asked that I stay, though. That's, and yeah, sadly there are a number of cases in the real world where, you know um, yeah, people who have mental health conditions, or in this case are believed to, they're not, their agency is not respected. And we already know that she's a fan. She's like, should I call you mayor? Don't worry about coming at this ridiculous hour. I'm sure you have such a busy schedule, And yeah, reminds me a little of that judge that obviously should have recused themselves and went ahead and said, good luck. I hope you win the election. But yeah, I think that pretty well gets us to the yeah. So yeah, Laurel gets the phone call that Right, that was also so creepy and disturbing when he's there in the mask. Like, holy crap. And yeah, she gets a phone call that, she's now dead. Um, Sebastian's mom, not Laurel. And yeah, understandably, Laurel draws her conclusions, and it is, the at first I thought that, this the it seemed like maybe this was an episode where Sebastian would be kind of flailing, but he makes a very strong recovery. By the end, Laurel and Timero think that Sebastian definitely isn't Brother Blood. They think that Brother Blood is in fact dead, and the yeah, and Laurel, her, like, it's gonna take a lot for people to believe her again. Even Oliver no longer, you know, believes her, and her father. So yeah, I think, was this around the time where we had the flashback? So yeah, I thought that worked really well. The way that over the course of the episode, the way that Sarah sees Ivo really changes. At first, yeah, she's making excuses. He was, unlike me, you've never seen him very upset. This is just how he gets. And this is also like we are seeing, before this episode, in the flashback, Sarah wasn't quite at the canary, Black Canary level yet. She was, you know, yeah, she still was making excuses for, you know, the men in her life. And yeah, let's see. I think that might bring us to the part where the so yeah, Laurel, talks to um the DA and or ADA, and gets the yeah, he doesn't really believe. Yeah, I thought they did such a good job throughout this episode showing, like, it really is like the gaslighting that is experienced by many people who struggle with addiction or have a mental health condition, that sort of thing. Yeah, very effectively done. And yeah, she goes to her father instead. And I think that might have been around the time where, so let's see. Yeah, so he calls Oliver, and they do a great little match cut where crap, I forget if that's also called a match cut. Anyway, they do a cut where we hear Oliver's voice when we see him, and then it cuts to we see, you know, yeah, Popthus Lance, and he is, we hear the last like word or two, and we hear it, like the voice is now changed, so the phone is set to that, which we already knew, but it's still a good thing just in case people forgot. And I think the thing about, well, there's someone who wants to talk to you. And yeah, so he shows up, and she says he's late, and he points out, well, I had to circle because last time there was a SWAT team, and I really appreciate she said, fair enough, because, like, yeah, she's willing to admit that, it's a lot to ask for him to trust her after that. And she also underlines she, if she had any other option, she wouldn't be contacting him again. And we are seeing, we've already seen a little, but as I said, the element of the domino mask really opens up. Earlier in the show, before the domino mask, they would never been able to do a straight handoff like they do here, but it just really adds something. Like, there was great, it worked well for the mystery, the fact that, the other character doesn't quite know, very much about who Arrow is, but now having them just that close to each other, with him still maintaining his secret identity, very, very nicely done. And it's also important to keep evolving things like this because, like, we're halfway through season 2. There's already been a lot of times where Arrow was, in the same, very, very close to physically to someone else who he needed to not know who he was. So, you gotta change up the visual language and have different things be carried out during it, stuff like that. And let's see, I think that does bring us to the yeah, I think this might be the flashback. Right, great transitions between the flashbacks. At one point, it goes from a framed picture of Laurel and Sarah to Sarah on the island, and another point, it's like light to light, sort of a match cut. And yeah, the part where, they talk about, I really miss beds, and she says, we're never getting off this island, and he's like, we will. Haven't been watching the rest of these episodes? This is just the flashback part. But yeah, I do really appreciate, seeing how they are on very different pages, at least at this point in the episode, on that rather important, yeah. And yeah, the fact that she thinks, he thinks they should stay and wait for Slade, and she thinks they should find Slade and hand over Miracle at this point in the episode, at least. Not so much by the end. And I think that brings us to the good news, bad news. Wait, when was... Okay, let's talk some about Roy, because there was definitely something... There were several scenes with him in this episode. Yeah, at one point, like, he's, like, passing Thea on the stairs, and in walks conversation erupting Cindy. And yeah, the oh, right, was that... Come to think of it, that was not the first time we saw, was it? Because I think... Yeah, I forget. But yeah, at one point he tells her about, the powers and the yeah, the I like the thing about, I can't tell Thea, it would scare her, but you're worried about scaring me. And the let's see, I think... Yeah, and like, he acknowledges, he needed to tell someone, and by the end of the episode, Sin has told Thea something, about the guy they put in the hospital, but she still doesn't know about Miracle. And yeah, it's one of those things, like, I don't know, maybe I talk too much about the socialization of women. We're not doing gender essentialism here, but there really is a lot of value to the way that a lot of women will just have a conversation instead of just keeping everything bottled up like so many cishet men will. So yeah, I thought that worked really well. And yeah, they talk about, well, maybe, there's the thing about, like, taking a beating. Well, maybe we should find someone that I'll, yeah, I'll turn the tables. And the thing about like, maybe we need, yeah, that scene was before the club. I realize that now. Yeah, she comes, she's like, I found someone, and like, yeah, sounds like someone Sarah would go after, frankly. But yeah, the let's see. So they yeah, the the thing about, well, we need to dangle someone as bait. Who would probably no. And yeah, he calls for Thea, and the moment that she's told, makeover, or not quite makeover, but help with clothing, she's like, yes, she really wants to contribute. She really wants to help out other people. And the thing about, like, Sin is going on a date and needs an outfit, and it's also the kind of thing of like, there's a couple of things there. For one thing, I have heard from women it is considered a compliment for a woman to ask another woman for help with that sort of thing. It means they really value their style, So that's one thing. Another is, like, it is credible that Sin might need help with, for one thing, the way that she, you know, she doesn't come across as someone who normally is very, like, when it comes to dating, it feels like maybe that's a little bit unusual for her, so maybe she needs a little support there. Also, money is a thing, so Thea has quite a lot of it, and I love Thea's, like, I have a great first date dress, guarantees a second date. The guy won't know what hit him, or her, whatever you're into. And she's just got this big smile on her face, just like, yeah, she's so wonderfully supportive. I love it. And I think that brings us to, I like the way that Team Arrow discuss, like, are we sure Brother Blood is even still in Starling City? Because, like, we, the audience, know, but yeah, like, you can believe that they wouldn't be sure about, like, yeah, last they saw he was alive, but, he lost Cyrus and the serum, so it's like, you could understand if he's, like, off licking his wounds somewhere. And yeah, I think that does bring us to the part where, yeah, so he goes to talk to, Oliver goes to talk to Blood, and I know I've already talked about it, but I do really appreciate the little smile. I wonder how long the actor was, like, practicing in a mirror, but that little sly smile, almost smirk. It's a combination of a smile and a smirk. It's a smirk. There's just enough of a sinister edge that we, the audience, are like, oh, don't trust him, but also enough, like, charm, some warmth that we can believe that people would trust him. I mean, it's not like Oliver trusts just anyone. And the thing about when he, I especially noticed the smirk when he says, Oliver, if I didn't know any better, I'd say you were sounding like a jealous ex-boyfriend. Just, and the, I think that brings us to the good news, bad news. The thing about how, she's like, so I'm thinking good news first is gonna soften the blow. Okay, you'd like me to decide for you. You got it. And yeah, I see what you means about the bad news needing to be softened. Like, holy crap. And yeah, well done on the thing of, like, they appreciated that they needed a visual, but it's like, how do you visualize that something isn't there on a computer? Okay, a prompt that says, say file not found, or no file locator or something like that, so just, yeah. And the thing about, even if you got in there, you wouldn't know where to look, but an ADA would. And we get another great silhouette shot, very effective. It's one of those things where, let's see, I think it was Matt Groening who said it, and I forget if he came up with it or he was quoting someone, but he said it about cartoon characters, animated characters. It is also very much true of comic book characters, even when they aren't animated. If you can show, if they have a recognizable silhouette, that's very effective. And yeah, I love, so he shows up, it's like, you told me you need my help, I need yours. What do you need? You? And she just immediately picks up the coat, like, just, she's raring to go. And yeah, the entire heist was fantastic. It's one of those things where, like, so yeah, so much of the show, there's so many things going on in just one. The fact that she's willing to do this at all, with this tremendous risk and like serious law breaking, it shows how driven she is. It shows, like, it's not necessarily a good sign, like, and at the same time, we understand why Oliver agrees to it, because what else choice does he have? He really, like, he's been obsessed with stopping Brother Blood, understandably so, for weeks now. And it seems like, what else is he, like, it's not like he's going to talk another ADA into it, The other ones don't even believe in this theory, so, yeah. And, let's see. Yeah, the fact that she keeps looking after being told, well, the cops are right out there, that, yeah, she is definitely spiraling. She's going to hit rock bottom, especially now that, by the end of this episode, she's been fired. And yeah, like, she was on drugs, there's a lot of situations where you'll lose your job over that. And let's see. Yeah, the fact that, as mentioned earlier in this video, she, several of the people closest to her no longer trust her. And I think that does, yeah, so the heist, it's credible that, Team Arrow worked this plan out and thought it should just barely work. They're not necessarily going to have way more time than they'll need, but 7 minutes with her looking for it should be enough. Unfortunately, this guy knows what he's doing, and that's the that's the kind of thing, like, you can't know that, and usually when Felicity hacks something, it goes, a lot of the time, at least, it goes smoothly, and then every so often they throw in a little, a problem. Really, really nicely done on that. And I liked her line about, at least the security cameras are from this century. And I guess that brings us to when it goes wrong. So yeah, they're going through it, and she's struggling to find it. And then, yeah, they call the cops, and Felicity warns, but what are they gonna do? And I love the sweeping shot where the camera shows Laurel find it, and then the camera goes up over, and the cops are entering through the door, and it's like, how are they gonna get out now? And the thing about, like, well, there's one other exit, and him running as the guns are firing, like, holy crap, that was tense. And it's one of those things that you have to be careful with. By the end of the scene, we realize there was nothing in the file. That can really lead to a sense of audience frustration. It's important to have something fail around that point in the episode, because we really need to bring the, I think they call it hero's lowest end in screenwriting, and at the same time, and also, yeah, but it leads to the you see the Slade reading it very shortly after, so that is where it is. And it it helps illustrate, I already mentioned what it illustrates for Laurel, and I guess Oliver as well. Yeah. So that's the kind of thing. They actually make it, in a way, it hits even harder than if they had found something there. And yeah, the fact that both of them took this tremendous risk and then got nothing out of it, like, it's difficult to not, for them to not doubt themselves. Like, by the end of the episode, she truly does believe that she was wrong about this, and without that failure, I'm not sure. I guess we could get there, but it wouldn't hit quite as hard. And I think this might be when we get the flashback of the what's the word? So so she, there's the thing about, you have to go, we need to sleep, and then we see she waited for him to fall asleep so she could contact Ivo, because he's not, he's not listening to her. He's not listening to her. And yeah, the way that they handle that entire exchange was also so well done. I guess most of it is in the next flashback, so we'll talk some more present day. Yeah, Roy goes to, so yeah, Sin and Roy with the guy, and we have a little joke about how Sin is not used to wearing heels, and the little thing of, at first she's putting on a, convincing performance. She, there's the thing about, I haven't seen you here before, which, like, on the one hand, like, is he suspicious? But then she's just like, I gotta start somewhere. And then once they're, he drives her to the, parking garage. And I think he says something like, "You're beautiful," and she responds, "You're disgusting." And she's like, holy crap, yeah. And he says, "You like it rough, don't you?" And brandishes a corkscrew knife. So yeah, there are a number of people who will say, oh, this person likes it rough. And what they really mean is, that they'd like to hurt that person and are going to pretend like the other person brought it on themselves. So excellent exploration of misogyny there. And yeah, Roy rips off the door. I thought they did such a good job there that at first we don't know quite how close Roy is, because, like, if he's following a car, like, how fast does he run exactly, And for several seconds, it's like, holy crap, is he actually gonna, have time to attack Sin before Roy shows up? But then Roy, and some fantastic stunt work in this episode that really helped a lot. The way that he is, Roy is just ragdolling this guy. And I thought it worked very well the way that, so we see some of the time he, like, picks him up and throws him around like he's nothing. And then we don't really see, we just see that Roy is, like, attacking him, but we don't see the exact damage. But, like, we can surmise, I mean, yeah, he might live, but even before Sin says you're going to kill him, it's like, he's not stopping, And it's, I thought they did a good job of, because it's one of those things, like, obviously, it's not that we like the guy that's being beaten, but we also don't want, this is not the way to handle it, And the way that what snaps Roy out of it is that, he, when Sin goes to stop him, he gets physical with her too. And, she's lying there saying, "Who are you?" Now she's got amnesia. And the they call an ambulance. I think that gets us to so yeah, Laurel, you know, heads home, and we have the thing about the yeah, actually I think that's when the so yeah, Slade is reading it, and the thing about he was able Sebastian was able to cover his tracks back then, and Slade points out, well, you lost that in the years in between, huh? And the point about it's not your mom who's the problem, it's Laurel that yeah. And holy crap, when yeah, if Manu Bennett got out of his chair that aggressively and then stood that close to me in that intimidating a manner, yeah, I'd probably do what he said too. And yeah, he calls the yeah he calls the cop, and we see how as also explored in earlier episodes, yeah, uh, you know corrupt cop, or as they're known in America, a cop, can get away with truly just the absolute worst. So yeah, Officer Daly makes a nightly visit, and yeah, very nicely done. On at first we don't know exactly, we just see the place has been tossed, and she says, she calls out, "Whoever you are, I'm calling the police," and then he says, "No need." Very nicely done on that. And again, like, she seriously has guts. Like, she doesn't run away from there. She's just like, you're in trouble, right? And yeah, they had a warrant, and they found the drugs, a felony. Having the drugs without prescription are a felony. It's not that they found a felony for the drugs. And yeah, her father doesn't believe, and she points out, she knows how this looks, but and he says, everyone who's standing where you stand right now say the same thing. He's heard it before. He's said it himself. So, he thinks that he's being responsible by not, he is worried that, if he listened to her, that would send the wrong message, that she would end up feeling like she must be right about, she even might be right about it, And yeah, I thought it also worked well. On the island in the flashback, the thing about Oliver doesn't even remember spilling beer on Sarah, but the thing about I got grounded, yeah, Laurel called the cops, and then she started dating you. And yeah, that it's a like, ultimately she does, it's not that she didn't also love Oliver, but it is still, yeah, the opera's getting very soapy. But but yeah, I think it pretty well covers the yeah. So Oliver takes her back, not into a relationship, but to the apartment, and yeah, I appreciated that she calls him out. At first it's like, so you're being really quiet. Are you rehearsing the lecture? And he says, no lecture. And then, shortly after, he starts lecturing. But I think that pretty much covers that scene. Let's see. Yeah, right. Yeah, she asks for a glass of water. So I guess sometimes she does just get thirsty. It's not always just a wash her down pills. But that was also, holy crap, the fact that she was popping them at her desk. Like, that really shows how much she's struggling. And then after the arrest, she is looking like she's going through withdrawal, It's a very serious problem, and it's so well communicated. She even, like, she catches, or not catches herself, she is almost caught as she's trying to take the pills at the desk, you know. Yeah, I think that brings us to the yeah, and yeah, Oliver gets knocked out, and Blood says, "Leave him. He doesn't matter." You know, which because he has no idea about Oliver's dual identity, and Slade doesn't want him hurt anyway. So, but the let's see. I think yeah, and the thing, do you know who took her? Yeah, I have an idea on this. Yeah, she's at the cannery, not to be confused with the canary. And yeah, very, very effectively creepy as she's walking around the cannery, you know, calling out, "Freddy, is that you again?" Seriously, though, that would edit very nice. I'm sure someone has done like a fan edit that smoothly transitions from that into that movie. Let's see. Yeah, and very nicely done on the way that Blood will just appear and disappear, and the fight was really cool. And the yeah, he shoots. Yeah, I mean the yeah. Okay, so yeah, I want to make sure I get everything said. I thought it worked well. The fact that I feel like there's some chance that Daly knew he might die here, so he is, sacrificing himself for the cause. And yeah, the way that he draws the gun, arrows it, and very shortly after, Laurel shoots. And that was also great the way that the fight, he actually is somewhat of a match for Arrow. Very nicely done. And then he stabs with Arrow, and Laurel shoots, and it's this thing of like, okay, so they're not pressing charges because it was self-defense. She did still shoot a guy. This is not going to improve her mental health, especially now that she thinks that she could have ruined, like, what if yeah, like, she was so sure that it was Sebastian, and yeah, the way that they let's see, I guess that brings us to the yeah, so I've talked about most of the rest of the episode already. I guess we have the part where yeah, so the yes, the flashback. So you have that conversation where yeah, Ivo says, I thought I saved you, but really you saved me. Like, wow, and then she, says, well, I realize it now. I was fooling myself about you. Seeing you torture, paint the man, cut the lines, and I was just, happy it wasn't me. And he has the gall to call her ungrateful. Like, wow. And yeah, says that he's going to torture her so much worse than what she's already witnessed. And again, like, it's such a striking exploration of misogyny, because like there are a number of women who know. Some have been as unfortunate as to experience it themselves directly. Some know because of true crime stories and such. But yeah, there are a number of misogynistic men out there who will do something terrible, terrify their partner, maybe even abuse them, then call them ungrateful, and threaten if the love bombing doesn't work. So yeah, really nicely done on that. And yeah, by the end, Sarah's like, he's right behind me, isn't he? And hands over the and yeah, they agree to go find Slade, and yeah, very, very compelling. Yes. Let's see. I thought it was really, really great that. Yeah, that's right. There's more of Roy. I think I've said most other things. Yeah. So Thea shows up to the hospital and says Sin called, and yeah, like Roy, not only did he not want Thea to know and didn't call, which one of those does lead to the other very logically. It didn't even occur to him that Sin would, like, he does, because I think it was very deliberately written that way, because you could have had Roy say, Thea, did Sin call you? Because, like, at the end of the day, considering what we know, there's a pretty decent chance that it makes a lot of sense for that to be the case. But he's that, like, he truly struggles that much to understand how these two women that care about him and that he cares about as well see how he is behaving. The drug is affecting his brain, and that, again, so obviously it's not 100% equivalent to addiction, but there is a little bit of an element of that there. And he used to take tremendous risks himself, so now he's just, this time it didn't really risk himself, but he is still engaging in behavior that is not constructive. And yeah, and Sin even says, we put him in the hospital. And the let's see, the yeah, Oliver, comes to talk, oh, slow night, huh? And the thing about the the, the yeah, the thing, he won't listen to me, he'll listen to someone. And Arrow shows up, and I really like the crack about, if you're aiming for my leg again, you missed. So the knee is halfway down the leg, and yeah, let's see, yeah, he explains, you have strength now, and it also worked really well that, yeah, Roy actually attacks Arrow, like, he's really struggling with control, as Arrow points out. And for Arrow, he's got the speed, the agility, the yeah, he can, I'm telling you, he can dodge blows. He does need to. And he says, I can train you to control yourself. And Roy just says, when do we start? That was really, really cool. So yeah, they're getting him to, yeah, I really appreciate the way that they handle his, I mean, he is becoming more of a vigilante, and the way that, yeah, at first, like, he was thinking he was basically going to be like, you know, not necessarily the right-hand man, but not that far off for Arrow, and that was not what Arrow had in mind. And, now it is an imperative. Like, he has to keep, an eye on him and train him. And yeah, the thing about, you got rid of the miracle, so, you really know how to talk yourself out of victory. That's a gift. And the right, I haven't recommended a video yet. I really appreciated the Cat Black video. I want to say it was called 3 Stories of Greed. And Quarators Natural Mysteries, as usual. Quarators are great. Drawfee did a holiday video that was really great. And I feel like there was at least one other. Okay, so it's been a little while, but I really appreciate it. Ofidoki's video. Let's see if I can recall the title. The second story thinks you're degenerate. And I know I've already made a comment about a certain individual already in this video, but I did just briefly want to include that I really hope that now that the Epstein files, with the various revelations in there, that this is going to be the last straw that makes the cup floweth over. Yeah. I think that might just about... I feel like there was at least one more thing I really wanted to say. So, close to the end of the episode, we have... at first we only hear his voice. And then he appears, attacks, and disappears again. As he kills, he says this was number 3 and 4 that have gotten killed because of your carelessness. You could be the 5th, and states the terms under which that might happen. It was worth the wait. What we got in that scene, it felt like exactly comic book Slade Wilson. Holy crap. It was perfect. The mask, the moves, the ruthlessness. Just holy crap. Yeah. And I think that might... Right, have I mentioned recently... So, the last time I read a comic that had Slade Wilson in it must be at least 18 years. That's how much of an impression he made on me. And to be fair, some of them I read multiple times. Yeah, fantastic episode. Holy crap. Gonna do another one soon. Yes, so that brings us to the right. When I did appreciate that Sin, she doesn't know about Miracle before, so when she just sees, she thinks she says, when did you start juicing? And yeah, for sure, what she's seeing there does look like... she's talking about steroids, not orange juice, right?